scientifically advanced century, teaching the Bible has become a real challenge and often faced with skepticism. People's view on the Bible has become skeptic. If we say something, they would just say the Bible is full of fairy tales or fable. And with the advancement of technology, even kids these days, what they believe is that what the internet pronounces is true. You tell them something, they would just right away say the Google or artificial intelligence is not saying what you say. And what they would ask is that, do we have evidence for that? And you know what? This question has become a household question at even Christian homes. Hello, everyone. This is Michelle, and in today's episode, we are going to see perhaps the right way to teach our kids the Bible, which would be fruitful in addressing their skeptical view. Let's take a look. Did you know 44% of the young adults in the US have abandoned their Christian faith during their high school? And when few kids were asked for the reason to quit their faith, they just simply concluded that, oh, we do not have any evidence for the Christian faith. The Great Flood, the Red Sea parting, the creation, all of them just seem to be fairy tale. And that has been the common answer among these children who had abandoned their faith during the high school. So the problem here is not with the children. Actually, the problem is the way we present and teach the kids the biblical incidents. The approach in how we teach has to be changed. Now, let me teach you on how we can approach this issue. I'm not going to give evidence for each and every incident in the Bible now, but rather I'm going to teach the method which would be the best way to teach the kids so that it would be easy for them to understand, so that they can get a view that the biblical incidents really does make sense and it is true. So first, let me tell you a story. There was a young man. He jumped into a sea and then he was swallowed by a huge whale. And later on, the whale just spit him out and the man was still alive. Now, I guess the person who might have come to your mind was Jonah. All right. Now, let me tell the same story, but in a little bit different way. In June 2021, an American lobster man named Michael Packard was swallowed by a humpback whale. When he dived into sea to catch some lobsters, he suddenly found something covered him. He then realized that he was swallowed by a whale and knew that he was inside the mouth of it and prepared his mind to die. But after 30 to 40 seconds, the whale spit him back and he came out alive and shared his experience. Now, I narrated the same incident but with different presentations, which will give a different perspective. This is exactly what we can do while teaching the biblical incidents. Now, sometimes the most frequent question which kids usually ask is, where did the dinosaurs go? Because when we teach that the Great Flood had destroyed every living creature except the Noah and seven other people with him, and along with the animals which were there on the ark, they would just ask, how can such a huge dinosaur be inside the ark? Because the school teaches us that dinosaurs were extinct 4 million years ago, and we have so many fossil evidences for that. This is what the kids would just right away ask when we teach them the incident of the Great Flood. Now, there is actually a reason why kids come to the conclusion that this does not seem to be true, because the way when we teach the Great Flood is slightly different. Now, take a look at this picture. Now, this looks pretty cute, right? That's a small little boat with Noah and with some animals peeping out, but that's definitely not Noah's Ark. When we teach or learn something from the Bible, the information must be provided from the Bible to us, and not our information must be put into the Bible to learn or to interpret it. For example, if I'm going to know what happened to the dinosaurs, I cannot go and search for the word dinosaur throughout the Bible, because the word dinosaur came during the 19th century only, but whereas the English translation came much behind that. So it is not the right approach to go and search for the word dinosaur, but rather I need to look exactly what happened to the animals or what happened to the earth, so that I can better understand what might be the real reason. That's the proper approach, and that's called the exegetical approach to the Bible. That's how we need to interpret, and that's how we need to teach the kids also. Now, let me show you how this can be done. Let's turn to the book of Job, chapter 40, verse number 15. Look now at the behemoth which I made along with you. Now, the first point to be noted here is that God says, look now at the behemoth, which means that Job can see this animal literally with his physical eyes, and that animal was alive during his days. That's the first thing to be noted. Later on, we will see the reason why God is pointing out this point here. Let's read further. He eats grass like an ox. Now, we might wonder, why would God point an animal and specifically point its eating habit? He compares this particular animal, the behemoth, with an ox and says that it is also eating grass. Now, what's so special about this? This is because in Genesis chapter 1, verse number 30, also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. According to this verse, all animals were herbivores because God says that He has given every green herb for food. So, this being the case, why would God point out a particular animal and say that it is also eating grass like an ox? Which means that this has taken place after the incidents of the Great Flood, because the eating habits of animal and eating habits of everyone had actually taken a shift. It changed after the Great Flood. So after the Great Flood, there are animals which were herbivores and carnivores, and to differentiate that and to highlight that this particular animal which God is pointing out, which Job can literally see with his eyes, is not a carnivorous animal, but whereas he is saying that that animal is also eating grass like an ox. Now let's keep reading further. See now, his strength is in his hips and his power is in his stomach muscles. So, this animal, which God is pointing out to, which he's describing, has the power in its stomach. So, basically, this is, we can imagine this or picture this as a huge animal with a huge belly, so that the entire strength and the power is on its belly. Now, you might imagine a few animals like an elephant or a hippopotamus or maybe few other animals, but now let's keep reading to understand what animal God is mentioning here. He moves his tail like a cedar. Now, cedar trees are not just some small trees. Cedar trees are actually huge because the average height of a cedar tree would grow around 30 to 40 meters of height. So, now if we take a look at the tails of elephant or a hippopotamus, I'm pretty sure that does not look like a cedar tree. So now let's summarize all these information which is given here. This animal is a huge animal because the belly is huge, the strength is there in its hips, and then it is eating grass. It's a herbivorous animal, and the most important point is that the tail is not small. It is like a cedar tree, so it's having a literally a long tail. And putting all this information together, we can think of only one animal or dinosaur species, namely sauropod. So now we have clear evidences that dinosaurs are mentioned in the Bible. Now, we may get a doubt that how can such a huge dinosaur fit in the Noah's Ark? The approach to that is different because the images which we see in our Sunday class books or some children's books which we find in Christian bookshop is actually wrong. According to scriptures, if we read Genesis chapter 6, verse number 15, we can understand the size of the ark. And this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. That's pretty huge, right? Now, we do not have to fit such a huge dinosaur inside the ark. Nowhere in the Bible, God mentions to take old grown up animals. That idea was actually influenced by seeing images like where we see tall giraffes and big elephants standing on top of the ark. The animals that were on board of the ark could have been mostly juveniles. This is because younger animals are smaller in size, they eat less, and they are best for reproduction post the Great Flood scenario. So, now based on these things, we can conclude that dinosaurs were present in the ark and they were alive, and the Bible is clear in it. This way of approach in teaching the kids will make them understand and they can see clearly that the incidents are true, and they would not have any skeptical view on this if the approach was this kind of method. So, what we need to be careful is that the material which we give to the kids, the Sunday class books or other images which we give, we should ensure that it is accurate with the scriptures and that is not contradicting to what we teach. That is where we have to be really careful. And when we are careful and when we teach the biblical incidents with proper evidences, we can ensure that the kids will be convinced and they can see the biblical incidents exactly as mentioned in the scriptures. And I believe that's a right way in teaching them. If it's God's will, we'll meet you in another episode of this weekly Pearl program. God bless you.